Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Alter. I've been in the industry for well over 20 years. I owned and operated a 17-man laboratory in New Hyde Park, New York, and now I'm a full-time academia as a professor of restorative dentistry. So I'm here today for one of the episodes for What's on Your Bench, and I'm excited to do this and show you what it takes to be successful in today's environment and today's climate. So typically, everything you see here on my bench is what I use on a daily basis. I start off with obviously a lot of communication with both the dentist and the laboratory. As you see here, my laptop oftentimes has images. I communicate often, whether it's through Skype or through email, with images, because if I don't have the opportunity of seeing the patient myself in order to attain the best results, pictures do a nice job with communicating. And no better is it than to have it sit next to you, as I have here in this situation, where we're doing a 8-unit case. So oftentimes, whether it's through with the use of CAD/CAM, which I'll get to in a second, it offers you a great opportunity to really communicate and know everybody's expectations. So I mentioned CAD/CAM. I personally use 3Shape software. All the softwares are wonderful, but I prefer the 3Shape software over other because I find that it is incredibly easy and intuitive to use. Now, with that said, I'm of the mindset of one shouldn't be independent of the other. CAD/CAM and artistry combined is what is the best result. And you'll see as we go through this that oftentimes, to me, CAD/CAM is simply a tool. It's the dental intelligence that we have as dental technicians utilizing this tool to get the best results. So in a perfect world, what I do is I use the scanner as well as the software to gain the benefits that it provides, which is consistency, repeatability, and precision. It allows me to make restorations that I know I can consistently repeat over and over for that doctor with a high level of precision. Then I couple that with the artistry, whether it's a staining glazing, whether it's layering porcelain, or a combination of the other. There isn't one set of rules or one cookie cutter function. Again, we are, as dental technicians or dental technologists, we are the ones who are driving what the end result will be. So again, I use the 3Shape, the D900L. It allows me to both have color as well as texture, allows me to use a semi-adjustable articulator and be able to do larger implant cases on a consistent basis. As we know, there's a lot of new materials, not so much new, but as well as zirconia, all on fours, different techniques. So I do that on a regular basis, again, with communicating with my clinician to achieve the ultimate result. So the idea of having both together really allows us dental technicians to be able to provide that artistry into the restoration while using the precision of CAD/CAM and automation. It's the best of both worlds if we tap into it properly in the right way, and that's what I use on a regular basis, and my clinicians absolutely love it. As far as what we do here at the bench, once everything is milled, whether it's a lithium disilicate or zirconia or whatever have you, these are the tools that I have on my bench in order to achieve the best final outcome for the patient. So first, I'm very creature of measurements and assessment in order to, within the parameters of being able to achieve the best artistry. So I do abide by the golden rule of proportion. So I have, as you see here on my bench, several measurements. So again, we have a Bowley gauge in order to measure exactly the width and the length of teeth, as well as the gauge to make sure that I'm in proper measurement where oftentimes we're limited with space. So how do you truly know how much to grind or how much to eliminate, excuse me, in order to be able to provide the best outcome. Now with that said, as I measure these things, typically now with the new materials, whether it's again lithium disilicate or zirconia, the amount of reduction or the amount of layering is significantly less than previously. We no longer have the situation where we have to mask out metal by placing opaque and then having to mask out the opaque by having a thicker layer of porcelain. So now it gives us the benefit, which you can do simply with the software in 3Shape. It gives you where you can actually reduce it, and I oftentimes do, just in the incisor layer, but approximately a third of a millimeter. And a third of a millimeter with the right porcelain allows you the ability to add that finesse or that vitality or that translucency that perhaps isn't there prior. And again, not to say that that's the only way. There's multiple ways. You can certainly do staining and glazing. You can certainly do other means, but it's a way for us dental technicians to achieve. And the more techniques we know, the better we can attain that final outcome. So measuring is a key. So as I go through it, even though you can do all that in the digital world, I still go ahead and I measure it once it comes out, well, rather once it's milled and I'm ready to start layering or staining or anything like that. And I mentioned the golden rule of proportion, again, whether it's through wax ups or even digital. This is a Fibonacci gauge where I can see the exact golden rule of proportion. So as I'm doing diagnostic wax ups or even diagnostic mock-ups in the virtual world, I always want to abide by the golden rule of proportion because as we know, that does give the best results and the most ideal and harmonic, pleasing results. So, but keep in mind that as I say these things with measurements, it's not by no means is it handcuffing you into one way or another. It is just a parameter. Our eyes, we can see these things, our eyes pick up harmony, and it's just another way of validating and verifying that the direction that we're going is correct. So it's another way to validate what I'm doing. So again, these are the measurement tools that I use and abide by. Now, once I've designed it and I sent it to the mill, I personally use the Roland mills, and it comes out in a green state. So these are some of the burrs that I use. So once the milled crowns in the green state come out of the mill, I remove them and I spend a little bit of time contouring them. Because the way you contour them in the pre-sinter state, in the green state, will really determine the way the end result will be. So looking at nature and looking at what a natural tooth is, there are concavities that have a little bit more of surface texture, and then there's high spots that should be well rubber wheeled and polished. Same do I do in the green state, and then I follow it up in the stain and glaze. But that's how you get the surface texture and the surface resemblance of what a natural tooth is. So here I use in the green state from Wagner Rotary. They have a nice kit that really does a nice job being able to delicately contour slightly in the green state prior to sintering. Once I sinter it, then I'm able to bring it out and start putting in the final touches again. If you're doing a slight layering, again, as I mentioned earlier, I layer only about 0.3 millimeters just to attain that translucency and that vitality. If you're doing something like staining and glazing, the same results, but now what I do is I use the GC luster paste as well as the Zerlux brand. The idea is that any of those stains can really give you the optimal result. It's the technique that we're doing them with. So these are great products. You can certainly use them and play with them to attain that result. And what I have is I've developed a certain technique that by playing with contrasting colors, you're able to create a monolithic crown that really looks as though it's layered and very aesthetics. And the way I do that is I use the Leonard from Renford. These are the 3 brushes that I use. This one, which is the thicker of the 2, you can actually place the neutral in the GC luster paste, and it's thick enough where you can run the brush and create texture along with it. So imbrication lines along the cervical going up all the way up to the incisal edge. And then it goes from finer, where I then go ahead and place my colors in the process. And then finally, if I'm doing any occlusal stains or any highlights or hypocalcifications, any color that I put at the cusp ridges or the cusp tips, I use the finer brush. I also really like the Leonard from Renford. It's a nice stain tray that gives you a well where you have the neutral, as well as you have this grid here at the top where I can label exactly which stains and which shade I'm trying to attain. So if you're doing this and perhaps you come back in the afternoon and you need to do, as in this case, another A2, A3, I can simply use a little bit of the diluter and get right back into staining, as well as the blue, the white, and the contrasting. So it's a nice tray that you can close, and you can use this as your staining and glazing, and then have it closed as you need be. If I was to layer, what I do is I use the wet tray by MPF. It is an evolution tray, and it gives you the ability of having, there's also strips that come along with it for more to humid it and to keep it wet. But I really like it because it comes all in one. It has a nice wet well where you can clean your brush, as well as a sponge that comes along with it. And you can have multiple powders on here to really achieve the end result. I typically, when I layer, I don't use only one powder. I certainly use the same principles as I do with staining, where I contrast with translucency and enamel and any transparency in there. The idea is to really be able to get a viable or a vital tooth to look as natural as possible in the oral environment. So this tray really helps me a lot, and I use it regularly. As far as brushes, there are multiple brushes that we can use. I use, believe it or not, this is probably about 20 years old, as well as this one, and it's been through, and you can tell it's kind of been well used, because you want to use a high quality brush. You know, as we're craftsmen, and the better tools that we have to perform our craft, the better it is. There's less frustration, and it really becomes like a second hand or a second nature. So your tools, you can use them and, in essence, just reach out anywhere in your bench and be able to grab your tool and be able to achieve exactly what you're trying to achieve. So a red sable brush is always something that I use, as well as a whipping brush. I do also use a spatula if necessary to do any craze lines or crack lines, as well as have an assortment of other brushes that have, some of them have the bowl in it in order for better condensing and so on. But this typically is my go-to. I also have these, which is a reverse gripper. In zirconia, we no longer have collars or anything like that, so being able to grab the restoration from within in order to stain it, so you can go all around without having any kind of irregularities in the stain by the cervical. So I use the reverse crown grippers. So once we do that, we go ahead and we stain and glaze. It comes out of the oven. Now, I always glaze slightly under a high glaze, because what I want to do is I want to hand polish or hand, and again, there's multiple ways, which I'll discuss in a second. There's multiple ways of being able to do that. There's depending on the shade as well as the patient's age will dictate how much of a shine I would want to have. Now again, keep in mind, as I said with the green state, I don't want shine all throughout the crown, because that makes the crown look very artificial, specifically when it goes into the oral environment and it has saliva in it, it even becomes that much more glazed. So the only place I want that high shine is in the high spots, which are typically the height of contours, if an anterior is the mesial, distal, and the central lobe, they tend to have the higher shine, and that's because our lips are constantly, as we chew, we talk, are moving over it. So in nature, they actually shine those areas, where on the concavity areas, our lips don't abrade it and shine it, not the lip, or rather the inner part of our mouth. And so you have more of texture there. So we want to emulate exactly that. So depending on what I'm trying to achieve, I would either use the Zircon Bright, which is a paste. It's very quick and actually remarkable how fast it shines certain areas. So I just treat it lightly with a rubber wheel prior, and then I use a bristle brush with this paste, and it really shines up nicely. And the thing is that it's controlled. It's completely controlled all throughout. If I need to, again, to shine, I do, again, go for the Wagner Rotary has great products with the berries as well as the finale, depending on what you want to achieve. The degree of shine that you're trying to achieve. Similarly, I have the Cera Glaze by Axis, as well as the luster. All these products are wonderful. Again, the products are really in the hands of the dental technician and what they can achieve. All these products can achieve the right result. It's just a matter of preference. And no one way is the right way. The idea is the outcome is going to be the best that you can achieve. So with that said, as I spoke about so many of my tools that are on my bench, and you see them all laid out here. Oh, and one thing I mentioned, as I forgot to mention rather, but as whether it's stain and glaze or bake, I like to use the Super Peg 2 by Harvest. It's easy to syringe. I put it on a peg and then I place it on, and it really holds through the bake and comes right back. And it's easy to remove, which is key because you want to be able to extract that out and use it at a different level, as well as a honeycomb to bake. But so these are the tools. Obviously, I always have the shade guide because you want to be able to match the proper shade with these different zirconias and different monolithic. Some are skewed in one way or another, whether it's through value or whether it's through chroma. So you want to be able to control that. I also have as a reference oftentimes something similar. What this is a color wheel. And although we know what we need to do to tone down chroma or increase chroma and so on, it's just a nice reference after a long day if you just want to verify and kind of see where things are and if you're going in the right direction, if you're achieving the right thing. It's just something that is really inexpensive at an art store and you can grab, and it helps not only yourself as a dental technician, but it helps your technicians that are in the laboratory kind of figure it out. So on this side it has the chroma and the primary and secondary. On the back side of it, it has how to control some of the values within. You know, sometimes we get a little stumped. We want to achieve a shade, whether it's an A2.5 that the doctor provided us. So we want to kind of see which stains to get you the best outcome. And with that, so these are the things that are on my bench. But one thing that I really want to the message that I really want to drive home is, as you saw, oftentimes there are multiple ways of achieving the same thing. All these are tools. The best tool, for lack of better words, is what I consider is our dental intelligence. And that is what we have with our experience, with our knowledge, and something that we can bring to make these tools effective. Without that, these tools are only tools. It's us as dental technicians that we can really grow and emerge and elevate ourselves through education, through reading, through collaboration, through participating with other dental technicians alike, and grow that dental intelligence. And to me, once you have that elevated growth, all these tools can allow you to achieve exactly what you want. It's not so much the how, but the why that allows you to grow. It's something that I strive for every day. I'm a big believer in lifetime learning. Every day you want to achieve and you want to do better than you did the day before. That's a motto that I live by, and it's something that I hope all dental technicians as well are looking to do and looking to grow and elevate, and our lives are that much fuller for it. So, well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this part of What's on My Bench. Hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you. Take care.